Unaccountably, mention of Vladimir Nabokov's novel, Lolita, has come before me several times, 3 or 4, in a short span of time, say a week. I thought I might go back and take a look at it, since I still have a paperback copy of it. I read it years ago. I had a friend who was a true Nabokov devotee, and since I admired that friend's lofty taste in music, art, and books, I read several books by Nabokov. I didn't get them then, and I didn't now. I don't know too much about the author, not that it matters. I know he loved chess and butterfly collecting, two very demanding hobbies, complicated and technical. I know he despised Freud and anything to do with psychoanalysis, which I think led him to choose the bizarre sexual theme for this book, Lolita. And I know he hated the fact that he had been uprooted from his native Russia and his life there, as well as being separated from his beloved mother tongue. I think what he lost irreparably in his life, his childhood in Russia, drove him to write this book. Lolita is the embodiment of that obsession to recapture what has been lost. This story is the tragedy of someone who has lost what they absolutely cannot regain, and yet they must try. The book is a lot like The Great Gatsby, both men trying vainly to recapture their past, and both failing, both punished for the attempt. Given the subject matter, I'm fairly surprised that Lolita was ever published, and given the way it's written, I'm completely amazed that it is considered one of the greatest novels ever penned. It's so deplorable and difficult. Those who love it are overwhelmed by the writing and willing to forgive or overlook its sin. The style of the book is deliberately, defiantly impressive. The use of language, the pyrotechnical wordplay, the puns, the crazed alliterations, so many rhetorical devices flying around, braced in astonishing grammatical passages. The writing is lavish, baroque, even rococo. The word use and word selection, his vocabulary is immense and also multi-tongued, is so dense and oblique that you can be reading along and nearly lose the thread of what is being said and done. That is why the book escapes from being prurient or erotic, because the word use is nearly like abstract expressionist painting. The author can depict a sex act which is not overtly sexual, as, say, de Kooning can paint a nude which is not sexually exciting because it doesn't look anything like a seductive naked lady. Nabokov says that he writes solely to achieve aesthetic bliss. That is his goal, and the book is a gala performance, all right. Very little in it is clear and simple. Take any of the sexual passages, or, to choose another, the murder at the end. It is insane, really, very odd and freakish in its occurrence and description, the exact opposite of a direct click and shoot. By then, that is what you expect from this author. He always opts for the weirdly, even wildly unconventional, which is why, I think, so many admire him. Nabokov rails against what he calls the idiotic accusation of immorality connected to his book, and he has disguised, he says camouflaged, the bare vulgarity of his tale by draping it in the most florid embroidery of his prose. Yet it is still the story of a middle-aged man having sex with a 12-year-old child. The narrator, who fashions himself derogatorily as Humbert, is a charming devil. He insists throughout that he is the most wretched and sinful of men. He can't help himself. He is imprisoned by his lust for the nymphet, and he imprisons her as well. They led a very dismal life, driving across America from motel to motel, she staying because she has nowhere else to go. He tells her that if she tries to leave, she will be placed in a state reform program and enter the hell of foster homes. He robs her of her childhood and her identity, calling her Lolita instead of her name, Dolores, sadness. Humbert and Lolita are both fictions, made-up names, two early cases of identity theft. The book is a huge glob of glorified sadness. It's also funny and satiric and always lush and overripe, but it's also sick and creepy. The fact that the narrator constantly announces that he's sick and creepy doesn't diminish that, or make him somehow an acceptable or admirable protagonist. He addresses at times the reader, his jurors, or the doctors who might be examining him, trying to understand why he did what he did. Nabokov's narrator is a pervert, and hanging around with him for an extended period of time made me uncomfortable. Nabokov wrote another oddly sexed book, Ada, with a brother and sister in a forbidden affair depicted in his lavish prose. I have no desire to read it now. Lolita was enough for me.